Back at home, feeling misunderstood. In between these ears ain't nothing
Come on,
good.
Bench Wars, welcome back. Happy New Year, man. We're back.
It's 2021.
We are finally back recording an episode during the week that it comes out, man. It feels good to be back on the couch. We're over on the on my kitchen table, for the bull pick'em because we didn't have enough seats on the couch.
Dom and I are a couple big bodies, that's for sure. You wore his jersey, you know that for firsthand.
And I wore that Jets jersey, which came back to bite me in the ass. So go back and check that out if you guys want to go see me back in a Jets jersey way back when. But it's good to be finally back. Like you said, we missed a lot of sports, but we got basketball back.
Basketball.
NFL has playoffs now. Bowl season has come to an end, unfortunately, but we still have the Natty coming up. And then hockey is back almost. We are 1 week away from hockey, and I can't wait for that too.
No, and this is when I think it's almost to the point where off-season sports are getting to, since there's so much more information now, everybody can see salary caps and all that kind of stuff. Everybody has an opinion who's going to draft who and whatever off-season sports, and we're about to get to off-season football, at least in the head coach hirings. And it's a little bit different this year with COVID and all that kind of stuff, but that'll be something that we'll be paying attention to. But I got to point out first off, we are the only two. Like, we had an episode scheduled to come out, first episode of 2021, and it couldn't have been episode 21. It has to be episode 22. Just always, we
always missed it by 1 week.
It could have been,
yeah.
but this is.
could have been.
I'm so pumped to be back here. I mean, we got to be back here and broadcasted on Colorcast last night. Shout out to them. And we're going to be doing more. We'll be doing the national championship if you're listening to this on Monday, the following Monday after. But we got back in here last night. It felt good doing that, but this feels right. I felt my Mondays were missing something without these shows.
Oh, it feels good to have the GoPro back on us, to have these mics in the stand, and have the belt. The 2020 podcast of the year belt. We're
doesn't go anywhere, but it's still here.
I'll tell you one thing. This is not that good of a belt, so if you guys want to use the Fanatics of Fubo stuff to help us out and get us a nicer belt, be my guest. But get us over here on the far end of the bench a legit belt, because we deserve it.
Yeah, Fubo TV, Fanatics. You can find those links in our bios on social media at FEOTB Pod. We're going to continue to plug that. If you've listened to any episode before, we say that about 10 to 15 times an episode. Anything that comes out, really. If you watched we're recording this on Monday. If you watched the video that came out, my wrestling promo, I said it, I think 3 or 4 times, just so that everybody knows. You can find Fubo TV, which is a great alternative to cable, Fanatics. You can get a jersey like Nico. He's wearing his Jokic. He pulled out the Mile High City Jokic.
I got the blue one out today. The basketball's back. I got my Black Skyline jersey saved for a special time. I'm sure my Avs jerseys will be coming out starting next week, but I got to rep the Nuggets the first one of the new year.
I mean, he's averaging a triple-double, so it's not like...
Oh, he's been an absolute animal.
He's a Serbian?
Serbian animal.
Serbian animal. I'm gonna get there eventually with the Nuggets. But let's go ahead. We'll talk... we'll start here because it's been a while since we've been able to talk to the listeners like this. What's been going on? Anything was new that's coming up recently?
Well, just the new year. I've been working on getting my sports betting going. That has been I've had a very, very bad couple weeks of sports betting. It's nice usually having UFC to get my paycheck up or get my bank account up, because I mean I can bet on UFC fights every Saturday, and I haven't had that for the last couple of weeks. So that's unfortunate, but besides that, everything else has been good. New year, new beginnings. I got to snowboard a little bit, which is a lot of fun. Hopefully I would get to go up again soon, but I mean we live in Colorado. Going to the mountains, nothing could beat that. So
yeah, no, the mountains in the wintertime is great. I want to get back to Gunnison badly. That's why I'm wearing my Western wrestling shirt. They're starting up here soon, but I mean, yeah, we basically been working on this like it's a second job.
Oh, 100%. We've been putting so many good things together between us adding shows to the network, us doing more things through social media. Like we said, 2021 is going to be our year, and we're going to continue to put out more things.
There's a lot of new things coming. There might be, for you gamers out there, there might be a Twitch channel at some point. We're not going to be super active. I mean, I play video games a lot, so I might just stream my gameplay, but we'll have a special thing that we got in the works on Twitch every single month, and with the Colorcast stuff, we're going to start putting out those clips on YouTube, because we did have the GoPro here. So if you want to see what it's a little behind the scenes peek, and we'll have some highlights. We'll be putting those out once a month or whatever.
Exactly. You can see the highlights from the other night of when Facu hit his 5 3-pointers and all the different highlights. I'm sure there'll be some big plays in the national championship that you'll be able to watch as well. And when the Avalanche come back, we probably won't be able to do the color cast for the first Avs game, but we'll be able to live tweet it, and we'll be doing a bunch of the other color casts for those games too. So it just gets better and more content. Trust me. I mean, if you like hearing our voices on demand,
a lot
better live interacting with us is even going to be more fun. Trust me, it's a good time.
It was a lot of fun last night. We were interacting with the comments. People were enjoying our broadcast, and the Nuggets had a big win. Well, we're not going to start with football. We got a lot of football to talk, or we're not going to start with basketball. We got a lot of football to talk about, and we'll use basketball to break it up. Let's start in college football, the bowl season. A little update on that pickup. I've been updating people on Twitter. There was a lot of games that happened in a very short amount of time. I'm not good with numbers anyways. Dom is
good numbers.
Dom is still home, so he did go back through and check everybody, and I am announcing now the standings as it sits. Dom is in first, I believe, by 1 game. He has a 1-game lead on Jeremy, and I were both tied at 13 and 11. And then you are sitting right at 500, 12 and 12, which honestly, with the amount of college football that I know you didn't watch, it's not terrible.
I mean, I just got lucky. Ohio State saved my ass when I picked when I picked them to beat Clemson. They saved my ass for sure. But yeah, I'm a bunch of those were just like a shoe-in. I just picked whoever, like the school I know most popular.
Or the cool mascot sometimes, the Demon Deacons. Yeah, no, Dom got bit in the ass with that game. But you're still alive to win it. If Alabama is able to win the national championship, you'd actually get second. You'd beat me. I'm basically screwed. Clemson was my national champion. Thank you very much to Dabo Sweeney and Trevor Lawrence. I didn't realize that you had already declared for the NFL draft with that performance. Holy shit. But my championship's no longer there. If Alabama wins, you and Dom both pick the right national champion, but I think he has 1 game on you. If Ohio State wins, Jeremy wins because he gets the tiebreaker. Since he picked the correct national champion. But that's the update there. Specific games, I mean, what did you think of bowl season as a whole for what you were able to watch? Because there's a lot of different opinions. I know Jim, who we had on a couple episodes ago from the J-Dash show, was saying that it was a trash bowl season. I'm not sure if I agree with him, but I'll go ahead. What's your opinion on it first?
I think with the bowl season this year, I think there was so much going on with sports coming back that it kind of got stepped back. Because the NFL season has had games every day of the week this season. They've had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then obviously Saturday and Sunday. So it's kind of hard to watch college football when you have the NFL on too. And then also the NBA started 2 months later, and so the NBA started right when bowl season started. So those holiday games. For the NBA, kind of people would rather watch that than some of these bad, or they're not as good college football games. When it comes to the bigger games, people have their eyes on it. That is 100% true. But most fans would rather watch either the NFL games, like the crappier ones, or go watch, I don't know, I mean, there's been a lot of good things going on. The Office is off of Netflix, so people are binge-watching the hell out of that now.
You gotta go get Peacock if you want to watch The Office.
Yeah, so people are binge-watching that on
the World Juniors, shout out Bleacher Connection guys.
Exactly, the World Juniors going on. Yeah, the World Juniors have been a lot of fun to watch too, with Alex Newhook and Bowen Byron, but we'll talk about that in the preview of the Avs season, but they've been absolutely studs over there. But, I mean, there's been a lot of different things going on. Bowl season kind of had to take a step back because I think the one thing, in my opinion, that kind of made it a really, really different feel was the Rose Bowl not being at the Rose Bowl. Because I think the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day, there is a feeling behind the Rose Bowl, that picture above with the roses and the jets flying over. I think that really sets everything, that sets the tone for bowl season. Yeah. And having the Rose Bowl still being played, but having it being in Arlington, it's a different feel. I mean, it's just not the same because Alabama versus Notre Dame was an okay game, but like most of these bowl games were also blowouts. It's not like we had a ton of close games. We only had a few here and there, but like the main ones were basically blowouts.
There's a few things that I want to get out before I give my take on this. Well, first off, I think it was hindered most by the timing of it. Bowl season's normally like a 3-week long thing, so yes, you have those. I was pretty excited because the first game was on a Monday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so there's going to be football on, but with the way they abbreviated it, you didn't get, so if you were watching the Cincinnati game, there was also 2 other games going on at the same time. Auburn Northwestern was going on, and I can't remember which other game was going on, but they condensed it so much that you were having to watch. I wanted to watch Cincinnati play Georgia because I wanted to see how that played out, but I did not want to watch how Northwestern bounced back after the Big Ten championship. I think that's where missing out on that extra week and the
They shot
extended
themselves
time,
in the foot, basically. Yeah.
pretty much, and it's on. I'll go ahead and put the blame where it should be. It's on the Pac-12. It's on the Big Ten for not coming back when everybody else did. It could have been avoided with everything like the games. Take the same games being canceled. Everything's the same. If those two leagues didn't start so late and we had to give them so much time to get as many games in, it would be a whole different situation. So I'll put the blame on those two conferences, but that really hurt bowl season. And I think just really the timing of the season as a whole, because a lot of these schools like Oregon only had a few games coming in, and there were some other schools that hadn't played in a couple months. COVID really did do a number on bowl season. It's unfortunate. There are a couple interesting storylines that come out of this. Big 12 finishes undefeated. They did not lose a single bowl game. Everybody wants to talk. I mean, I said it too. I think the Big 12 and the Pac-12 are probably the two lesser of the Power 5 conferences, but they had a great showing. Oklahoma's fucking scary next year. Spencer Rattler, as much as he's not the greatest person to get behind, he's very hard to root for. He's a plus 450 right now for the Heisman. I saw that earlier. For
Next year, hopefully.
Yes,
Not
no,
the-
it's next year.
Yeah,
It's next year for the
Yeah.
following year. But he's plus 450 for next year. He looked really good. And then that brings up another thing about this year's bowl season. A lot of players opted out. So that's the only place where I see Jim's argument about the season being trash, is that there were a ton of players who decided that the NFL draft and combine process was more important than finishing out their college careers. But
It was just weird because I mean each conference has their officials. It's not like there's one, there's not. It's not like it's one league. Yeah, it's all NCAA football, but each team or each school is dependent on their division or their conference. The conference really depicts how everything else goes for the rest of the season. If it was one governing body, which we don't have in college sports at all, then they probably would have went a lot smoother. But each conference has their own agenda, and that unfortunately hindered everything. Because I mean, like we said, Ohio State only had 7 games before, and Clemson had 11, and blah blah blah. That never happens. But since everything that hit with COVID and all the games being canceled or teams not being able to travel or whatever it may be, that just made it a weird season.
It was weird. I'm glad that it got done. I think that it was important for the season to be finished out, and we are going to have a national championship. We'll talk about that game more specifically. But first, before we get to the semifinal games, the Georgia-Cincinnati game is one I wanted to touch on because Cincinnati had the weight of the entire group of 5 on them, every non-Power 5 school, and I don't think that they did a terrible job. Honestly, if you put them if you go back to the similar situation to UCF in 2017 against Auburn, if that game was just a little bit longer, Auburn still had a chance to win that game. It's not like UCF dominated them. So when you get in these games where it's a Power 5 versus a group of 5, granted Cincinnati's a great team, they have a ton of talent, and they were winning for a majority of that game. It took a hell of a comeback by a school. It's the biggest comeback I think in school history for a bowl game in Georgia. But if you just continue to play, the talent and the physicality of everything is going to catch up to you, and you started to see that after the long touchdown run Cincinnati had. Georgia started their comeback because they were just able to decide that, you know what, we're just going to bully you, and it was unfortunate. But this leaves the question: Group of 5, does this warrant expansion?
I don't know if it warrants expansion because if Cincinnati wins that game, then they prove themselves. They should have been that 4 team. But like I said, when we did the bowl prediction show, I love this is my favorite matchup out of the top 4. This Georgia Cincinnati game, because Georgia is one of the top SEC schools for a reason. They're a storied program for the last few years. They RBU basically with Todd Gurley, Sonny Michel, Nick Chubb. You can go on and on with that list.
The defense has been pretty legit the last few years too.
So they know what they're doing down in Georgia, and then Cincinnati had a chance to show that they deserve respect, but in the end, Georgia showed why the SEC is still the SEC. This matchup with Cincinnati losing like that, they were winning, so it's not like they got their ass kicked. But losing, I think, is a bigger slap to those lower 5 conferences because with them losing to maybe the third best team in the conference technically, because Florida you could say is the second best team in the conference on paper because they're in the SEC championship. Obviously, it's probably not true because of their poor performance against Oklahoma, but on paper they're the third best team in the SEC, and Cincinnati couldn't hold the lead against the third best SEC team. And why then that conversation of why Cincinnati isn't in the Final Four makes sense, because if they couldn't hold that lead against Georgia, what do you think would have happened against Alabama? They would have got their asses handed to them. There wouldn't have been a close game. Alabama would have murdered them more than they murdered Notre Dame. Like I said, it did not matter who they put it for. It didn't matter. It didn't matter who they put it for. But Cincinnati proved it. I mean, they had a chance to prove themselves. They just didn't.
Honestly, I would give that loss. Yes, the players should have not put the game in that situation, and I give a lot of credit to Georgia and Kirby Smart. But that's the thing is, coaching ended up deciding that game. Fickell did not. We've talked about some bad coach clock management. That last series, 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1, you can't pass it there. You got to run it, and even though your guys aren't as physical up front, you might not get it. You still got to run it because you can use the clock as a weapon at that point. You gave them absolutely way too much time, and your defense was tired because looking at the box score, Cincinnati scored 3 touchdowns, and there was 1 touchdown in each quarter leading up to that point, and then Georgia started getting in a rhythm and going on pace. So I would say it was coaching. I don't think it was a terrible loss for them. I think Cincinnati's going to come back with a vengeance next year and repeat as All-American Athletic Conference champion, and probably be in the conversation as to why they're not involved in the playoff again. The one game that I would say, I do think that it should. Do you still think that they should expand the playoff?
100%. I don't. Maybe not to 16, but I think definitely 8. I think 8 is a lot more reasonable because, I mean, you have to discuss with all the divisions, like I said, and the NCAA in general is just a whole shit show. Right. So that's something else to be worried about. But I think 8 teams is the move because you cannot. It's hard to jump from 4 to 16 right away. I think you got to take baby steps. That's why when we jumped from 2 to 4, I believe they did that because they could have easily done from 2 national championships, just 1 national championship game, to 8 because that's only 4 games total. So with having the only 8-team playoff, you can have each Power 5 champion, and then you can have the
next best 3-1 group of 5
the next best 3-1 or whatever may be group of 5 champions, and then whoever loses their whatever record may be, it still leaves room for error. Yeah. And then when you move to 16, you have a lot more factors into it, and that NCAA may not be ready for that. So that's why I think maybe 8 is the first step. Feel it out with 8 for a few years, and then go to 16. But it definitely does need to go on to 4 because it was an absolute ass whooping what we saw Alabama to do. And we didn't think it was going to be an ass whooping, the Clemson-Ohio State game, but Ohio State poured it on that
Ohio State was probably the most dominant football team to take a field in the last couple of weeks. For the 16 teams, they probably could do it just because the way that it would be based solely off of the rankings at that point. And then regionals, that's how Division II does it. Is you have your conferences, and then they split each conference into a region. They would need to do that, and they're not going to with the way because they're making money now hand over fist. Yes, I think they would make more if they changed it, but if they're not losing any money at this point, there's no reason they're not going to see the point in changing it.
If we're being honest too, though, like with the 16-team playoff, the best games are going to be the 8 versus 11, 9 versus 10. The 1 versus 16, I think the 16th seed would have been Coastal Carolina, maybe, or I'm not entirely sure.
I'll pull it up.
But
keep going with your point.
But with Alabama playing against a Coastal Carolina team, that would have been an absolute shit show. What we could have seen is we could have saw Alabama versus Cincinnati. I believe it was Cincinnati 9, Georgia 8.
Cincinnati was 9, so Cincinnati still would have been left out.
They probably would have put Cincinnati there if it was a top 8. But if we would have saw Cincinnati versus Alabama, that would have been a better game. Obviously, having the game with Alabama playing whoever the 16th team.
It would be Iowa.
It would have been Iowa.
The rankings before bowl season would have been Iowa.
Yeah, so I think that would have been a steamroll either way. But like it's just a weird situation with having 16 teams. I mean, we talk about college basketball a lot and how fantastic March Madness is. Taking college football needs to follow suit. We talked about this with the bowl pickup too. I mean, I'll keep going back to the episode, but there's a preseason in every single sport. There's exhibition games. There's exhibition games where you could erase those crappier games and make it the extended postseason, because I know college football doesn't want to have a 30-game season or a 25-game season. That's the one thing they're trying to avoid.
Well, they extend their calendar as much as they can. They have 2 bye weeks in there. They could take one of those out, and then they can. The NCAA. I agree with the exhibition games. One thing I'll say is that yes, the 1 versus 16 matchup might be a blowout. We might see the same situation happen that we saw with Alabama and Notre Dame. But the one thing I will say is that when you have to play multiple times, each game you have to make sure that you don't make a catastrophic mistake. So yes, in this situation, Alabama probably dominates Iowa, because I don't think that happens in their next matchup. Maybe they catch an Indiana team who's coming off of an upset win over Florida that nobody thought Indiana could. The more chance there is for error. The more chance there is for error, especially in college sports when it's 18 to 25-year-old kids. That's where the parity is going to come in. So yes, the first round matchups still are probably going to look the same, but those second, third round matchups, those are going to be the ones where you're like, I really don't know. Maybe we have a VCU at some point in the semifinal. Yes, the parity won't be evident right away, but it will still come. And there's still, when you get into the playoff, the money that you make from the bowl game helps every single program. So then the talent gap will start to become a little bit less. It is possible.
Yeah, and extending the playoff too, it definitely does give other programs more recruits, in my opinion, because one of the biggest enticing things about going to Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, or Notre Dame is that they're more than likely going to be in the playoff. I mean, these bigger recruits now, they'll just stay in their state. Say Cincinnati, for instance, those recruits won't go to Ohio State. They'll go to Cincinnati, and then they have a shot at making the playoff. So that could make it even better with 8 or 16. I do agree completely. It does need to move on from the 4. Jeremy was even saying at one point that we got to get rid of 4 and just go back to 2, because this is terrible.
Well, this is just causing more divisiveness among the champions. You can go back however many years you want to, all the way back in 1990 when CU won their championship. It's technically not a champ. They share it with another school. So there have been worse things in the past, but I agree with Jeremy that this has been more frustrating than any BCS championship that I can remember. There was, at least the BCS champion, I thought the best team would win, all the teams had a chance.
You knew who the top two teams were, and with the BCS, you knew, the other games meant a little more. The Rose Bowl game, when it's not a Final Four game, it really doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
And the other games mean so much more because you know who the top 2 teams are. I do think the Final Four is a great thing, though, because like we said, Ohio State wouldn't have been in the national championship if it was based off 1 and 2. So I do like that aspect of it. But like I said, the 4 seed, Ohio State proved that they should have been in there, but Notre Dame, that 4 seed could have been elsewhere.
It's really, it's a matter of, and I had a point and then I lost it, but I do think that what the playoff did, I found it again, what the playoff did was it introduced the idea of parity, but then it takes away everything that you would have used to make the parity, like conference championships. I said it on the episode with Jeremy and Dom that if we're going based off the criteria set forth when the playoff committee came down and said this is what we're going based off of, conference championships were number 1 on the list. Undefeated record was right there underneath it, and then it was who did you play and what conference did you play in. It wasn't who do you know, which athletic director sits at the top of the committee, Ohio State, and then who's going to do everything that they can. It's $6 million. When a conference gets one school into the playoff, they get $6 million for the conference that's dispersed evenly amongst every single school in that conference. You get multiple schools in, like the ACC did this year. Both those schools earn $6 million. That's an extra $12 million to an athletic budget that's going to be growing once COVID comes out. They've made their money, but they have the chance to make a lot more money. And I think the BCS, I agree with you with the other bowl games. You have the top 2. And then you'd have the Rose Bowl where nobody opts out because they want to win a Rose Bowl championship. It was a good idea. It hasn't been executed very well.
Well, first of all, yes, did Ohio State play a short schedule, but they obviously deserved it. It's not the fact that, yes, they they got in because of their resume, but they showed to everyone why they should have been. If anything, we should have been looked at the ACC even worse. We should not have we should have discredited Clemson because they're them losing to Notre Dame earlier in the year. That's what we should have been discrediting more than Ohio State only playing 7 games. That's what we should have been looking at more, for being honest. Because obviously Ohio State is one of the top 2 teams in this country for a reason, because they manhandled Clemson. When it comes to that 14, that's where it's up for debate. Because the ACC, obviously the ACC did not have the facilities because they did not have a good bowl record. They did not do very well in the bowl season.
A lot of their schools got
that's where you look at, does Ohio State maybe should have been 2. If they played maybe 8 games, maybe they should have been the number 2 seed instead of Clemson. Either way, it doesn't matter. Ohio State took care of business and proved why Clemson shouldn't have been number 2. And that they were on the backs of the number 1 pick in Trevor Lawrence. So that's just one of the other arguments there. Texas A&M being there, that goes to the other thing with SEC bias, whatever it may be. And then you look at the Big 12. Oklahoma, we thought beginning of the year they lost their shot completely, but they proved themselves.
Well, they definitely. I think they would have been.
They would have been
interesting in the playoffs.
Yeah, they would have been very interesting. Maybe they deserved 4 more. Who knows? But either way, Ohio State deserved to be there for a reason. They showed it. They're in the national championship for a reason. Justin Fields proved everyone wrong, including myself, because I thought he was going to shit the bed. Trevor Lawrence is the one that shit the bed. And so it's now we're at a point where I think the 2 best teams are playing 100%, but I wish we had a better system to get there.
Yeah.
Better system to get there. Because right now, Ohio State and Alabama are the 2 best teams in college football. There's no doubt in my mind.
It should be a hell of a game.
It's going to be a fantastic game, but getting there should have been better. Notre Dame shouldn't have been there. Clemson should have been ranked lower. Oklahoma should have had a little more love to be pushed into that position, especially after they throttled in the Big 12 championship, and then they throttled Florida.
Yeah.
Florida should have been discredited as well. Alabama is far and away the number 1 team in the country for a reason. There's no shot they wouldn't have been lower, but it's just a weird situation. I just want the upcoming to be better than what we had.
Get me to the same point, but do it better.
Exactly. Exactly. I would not have minded this Alabama-Ohio State final with an 18 playoff. If Ohio State ran through everybody, then got to Clemson and kicked their ass like they did and got to the national championship, I would have been completely fine with it. I just wish Notre Dame would have been figured out better, and I wish they would have handled Cincinnati, Oklahoma. I'm trying to think of the other team.
A&M.
A&M situation a little bit better.
Yeah, we're on the same board with that. Like I've said it a while ago. The NCAA is going to wait until everybody loses hope, and then they're going to turn around and say, "Hey, look at this new thing. We've been telling you to do that for years, but thank you for doing it now." That's where we stand with that. Now let's talk a little bit before we transition into basketball. This Ohio State-Alabama matchup, because we're not going to have another episode before this game happens. So I agree, it's the 2 best teams, and they proved that this past weekend. Alabama, I think, didn't beat Notre Dame quite as badly as I thought they should have. This Notre Dame team was better than the last one that got into the playoff and got killed. But Devontae Smith is the best offensive player in the country. Is probably going to win the Heisman.
I want to apologize because when we did the poll pick'em, I said Devontae Smith shouldn't win Heisman because he's a wide receiver, but boy was I wrong. He deserves every bit of it, and I would love to see a receiver now have the Heisman Trophy because he deserves it far away, especially after what Trevor Lawrence did.
Yeah.
So I think he deserves it more than anything.
Lawrence and Trask had bad days, and then he's benefiting because Mac Jones didn't have. Yes, Devontae Smith benefits off Mac Jones, but Mac Jones wasn't as dominant in that game, and neither was Najee Harris. He was the most dominant player in the biggest moment so far. Trask shouldn't even be invited to New York after what he did against Oklahoma. But after he touched the ball the first time, Devontae Smith on the sideline, making everybody miss and deciding that he wanted to score, so he went and scored. That was his Heisman moment. You always look for a couple Heisman moments. His first one was the one-handed catch against LSU, because that's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. And then it was this first touchdown, I think, because it just showed if he wants to score, he's going to score. If he doesn't want to, then who knows? But if he puts his mind to scoring, that's what's going to happen.
There's very few cornerbacks on the field that can slow him down, and he 100% is a person that raise his draft stock. He is far and away the best receiver.
Honestly, I might not hate the Bengals picking him now. Because
I mean,
they're sitting at 5, I think they're going to miss out on offensive linemen.
Yeah, Sewell might go earlier, but I mean, if you're the Dolphins at 3, you definitely look at repairing Tua and Devontae Smith back together. That could be electric down
National
there.
championship connection.
Devontae Smith is going to has raised his stock completely. I mean, Alabama, yeah, they still won 31-14. The score was 31-7 at one point. So I mean, they didn't beat them by 50 like Ohio State did. Or I mean, Ohio State only won by 21 points. So it's not like it was that much of a difference, in my opinion. Alabama still throttled them. Notre Dame was handled that whole entire game. If it wasn't for a late touchdown by Notre Dame, the final score would have been 31-7. So it's not like Notre Dame had a shot in that game at all. Let's
no,
not,
Notre Dame did not have a shot.
I
I didn't say that, but we talked so much about how dominant Alabama's offense is, and they just didn't need to score as much.
And their defense is what showed up.
Their defense did.
Defense is what
They're
showed up.
very athletic everywhere. They have the speed. That's the best thing about the SEC is the kids that you recruit are fast, and they're fast and physical. They're going to be everything. They're going to need all of that going up against this Ohio State team, who I think their offense is kind of transitioned. I think the biggest difference I saw from last year's semifinal matchup to this year's was the attitude of Ohio State was pissed off. Trey Sermon ran like he was pissed off. Justin Fields took that hit from Skalski. We can debate whether or not he should have been kicked out. To the letter of the law, he should have been, but took that hit, felt the pain the rest of the game, had extra padding put into his uniform, and still came out and was just we wanted to win that game more than anything. I have to give my kudos to those two guys because they definitely put the team on their back, and everybody else stepped up too. Every single person who made the mistake to cost them the game last year stepped up and made a huge play. Olave's touchdown, the long touchdown that Fields threw. Olave is the one he was going for last year when he threw the game-sealing interception. So everybody that was there last year and everybody who had a little bit of a chip on their shoulder came out, and they wanted to prove that they aren't the 11th ranked team in the country.
I mean, the number 11 is a lucky number for them, obviously, because they throttled them. I mean, look, people are sleeping on what Trey Sermon has done the last 3 weeks.
500 yards.
If he had these numbers the first many weeks of the season, we could have seen him at the Heisman Trophy ceremony because he has been putting up unreal numbers. And this Ohio State team is realizing that Justin Fields is a fantastic quarterback, but we can run it down your throat and we can make you feel every single inch, no pause on that, and feel every single inch on the field.
There wasn't much pause what Trey Sermon was doing to Clemson. Ohio State's better without Master Teague on the field. Everybody was talking about Master Teague going into the season. The other running back that ended up being hurt. Trey Sermon's a dude.
He's an animal.
He got lost in the shuffle at Oklahoma, but man, he's a bad man.
We both love watching a good running game. Watching Ohio State, I know you hate Ohio State, but you can't deny how fun of a running game that was.
Big Ten football. I'm going to take my foot, turn it sideways, and shove it up your ass. It was amazing. I loved it. I hated it because of the team, but just deep down inside, I was like, I like it. Keep doing that. Do it again. Hit him again. Hit him again.
And the fuel Dabo Swinney put into this Ohio State team, if anyone really thought that Ohio State wasn't going to answer back in any different way, they were not going to get their ass. They were not going to lay down and take an ass beating. They were going to come at you full swing and not go down without a fight, and they kicked the shit out of you.
How good is it that I think, and wrestling fans will appreciate this, I think this is one of the greatest heel turns since Seth Rollins turned his back on the Shield in 2016, I think, in WWE. The way Clemson went from the happy-go-lucky, going to compete with this Alabama dynasty, to a dynasty themselves, to now they disrespect everybody that they play, and everybody wants to see them get beat. And when you lose, everybody, I tweeted it on my personal Twitter, I was like, I get it. Dabo ranked Ohio State 11th going into the game. We don't have to tweet about it anymore. I
tweeted about it
a million. I know. I woke up the next morning and scrolled for 5 minutes, and it was Dabo. Are they 11? Are they 11? Film study, huh? Film. Yeah. No. I get it. No. It's one of the best. Well, depending on how you look at it, one of the best heel turns I think I've ever seen, especially as a wrestling fan.
It's gonna be an even bigger heel turn. Because I said this, I tweeted this out at one of our fellow brethren at the Unhinged Network, Hilo Sports. Yeah. He said, "What a heel turn Dabo Swinney has turned." I said, "Well, wait until he goes back. He goes back to his alma mater, and Nick Saban retires, and he is the head coach of Alabama for the next 30 years. Because that's even going to be a bigger heel turn. Because all of Clemson is going to hate the man. Because now let's be honest, Clemson may not be a top 4 team next year without when Trevor Lawrence leaves, Ula, whatever.
Uiagalelei.
Yep, there you go. I know you got the name down, but I still don't.
I say it for everybody. Nobody will say
Yeah,
Uiagalelei.
Yeah, so who knows what they're going to look like next year.
He's top 5 for Heisman next year, too.
So, I mean, Clemson might be the drop-off. We might see a few bad years from Clemson, and then Nick Saban's like, I've won enough national championships. My bust, or what's it called, like the statue.
Yeah.
My statue is already out in front of Bryant-Denny Stadium. Now it's time to bring in the new blood and let Dabo Swinney take over. Because I'm telling you right now, Dabo Swinney would not hate to be the Alabama head coach.
I believe that's his alma mater.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, that's his
Yeah.
alma mater. He won and he played in it and won a national championship for them. Now come back to coach after what you've done at Clemson. I think that's the greatest heel turn in college football history right there.
He's probably the only coach that would be able to take over that program, especially where Saban has put it. Saban's been weird. One other interesting fact about that Clemson-Ohio State matchup, yes, it was a rematch from last year's semifinal, but that was the first time Clemson has lost to Ohio State in the postseason. For as great as a program as Ohio State has been, all the national championships, Woody Hayes, which is also another funny story about Clemson, he got kicked out of his game, the last game he ever coached for Ohio State, because he punched a Clemson linebacker on the sideline. That was the first time Buckeyes have beat the Tigers in the postseason. So it was a great win for them. I'm excited for the national championship. I think Alabama's going to win. I'm not going to... I don't want to pick Ohio State. That's why I'm going Alabama.
I'm going Alabama because I want Charlie to get himself a ring. He's got a Rose Bowl ring right now. He has an SEC championship right now. Now I'll go get you the natty. Chuck, I'm rooting for you. I do like to see new blood. I would like to see Ohio State make a statement, but I'm not going to root against Charlie. So
Yeah. What's up, benchwarmers of the Unhinged Sports Network? We got another thing to get to because, nobody likes dealing with cable companies in 2020. And here at the Unhinged Sports Network, we wanted to cater to you guys to go into the new age, cut your cable cords with Fubo TV. We have a new link, a new partnership. You can go to the link in our bio, and if you sign up for a subscription through that link, you will kick back a little bit of money to the Unhinged Sports Network so we can continue to bring great content all across this platform. And we got big things coming up in 2021, so you're going to have to get in on this, and we're helping you out in the process.
Yeah, make your life easier, man. No one likes dealing with cable companies. You don't get half the channels. Sometimes there's blackouts. That's not present with Fubo. You can get whatever you want. I can watch Sunday Night Football with no sweat. I can watch I can watch basketball on TNT anytime I want. Be sure to use Fubo, man. I'm definitely going to be using it. I hate paying for cable, so I'm going to be using that right now as we speak, if we're being honest. And I want to make sure to get on that deal, so now it's your turn to do the same.
Help out the Unhinged Sports Network. Cut your cable cord. Come into the digital age. Thanks, guys. Welcome back, benchwarmers. You just heard. Be sure to tune in to Two for Chirping. It's going to be played mostly on the weekends. I'm recording it this Thursday, so when you guys are watching this on YouTube, that's what I'll be doing. I'll be recording Two for Chirping with Ken and Trevor of the Bleacher Connection podcast. But let's go ahead. Let's get into the rest of this episode. Most dominant team of the week. It was the last regular season week of the NFL. You want to start? Or you want me to start?
I'll let you start because I had a few I wanted to pick here, but I'm going to take a jab slightly at you with one of my picks. So.
Oh, really? Well,
yeah.
I'm taking a jab at myself. The Baltimore Ravens are my most dominant team of the week. 404 yards, or 404 yards rushing, and they have 40 minutes of possession. So the Bengals had the ball for 20 minutes of a 60-minute game. That's not really a recipe for success, and it wasn't. It was an absolute domination. The Ravens, I think, are now more of our big brother than the Steelers. That's saying something. The Ravens are red hot. They're my most dominant team of the week.
I take it back. My most dominant team is going against a team you hate, your secondary team you hate, and that's the Buffalo Bills. And they absolutely throttling the Miami Dolphins. Good Lord.
The 10-6 Dolphins that missed the playoffs.
It's crazy to think we're watching football teams in the playoffs for that, but I really like this Bills team a lot. Stephon Diggs is maybe the best receiver in football alongside Devontae Adams.
Mm-hmm.
They've been putting absolutely unreal numbers up. And the Bills look like they're on a tear. And now they have, like I said on the NFL Unhinged show that we recorded last week, the Bills have 2 home playoff games, maybe 3. That's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary. And they have fans at the stadium. Some. They don't have a lot, but they have some. Buffalo passed the warrant that they might have some fans there. So look out for them. They're easily my most dominant team of the week.
I don't hate that at all. They were really good. And I like that Sean McDermott played all of his guys. Yeah, they were playing for the second seed, but they knew that the Steelers weren't playing all their starters. I guess that's how little faith they had in Cleveland to be able to make it in. But now we got the playoffs.
Playoffs? Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? Oh, man, we're talking about playoffs.
We're trying to win a game here. Yeah, in the infamous words of Coach Mora, the playoffs are started. We fell a little bit behind with our regular season pick'em. We'll go ahead and figure out the last stats that we had and see who won. But now we're going to stop there and reset for the playoffs. So now this is a whole new thing. Basically, whoever won the regular season is the division champion. They'll get a T-shirt. So I think you might have won. So congrats, you got the T-shirt.
Barely I won. I did not have the last good couple weeks, but I barely won.
But now, whoever wins the playoff pick'em, we'll make a trophy. And that
maybe I'll let you keep this belt for a week then or something. I'll let you hold on.
I'm going to continue to bring it back here though for every episode of the podcast. I don't know, maybe, but we'll have something, a championship for the winner to take home for the playoff pick'em. But let's go ahead. We'll start off. Let's talk about the bracket as a whole. The Chiefs #1 seed in the AFC, Packers #1 seed in the NFC. They played all their starters too. Beat the Bears, and the Bears still somehow made it into the playoffs. So,
well, I mean, shout out to who was the quarterback that started for the Rams?
John Wolford.
John Wolford. Shout out John Wolford getting his team in the playoffs.
Former Arizona hotshot.
Whoever that quarterback was that Arizona started with the full sleeve tattoo and the Viking look. Good lord, that was wrong. I don't even know his name, but it was like Stratlander, maybe.
Yeah, I just can't think of his name.
I think he was a Canadian Football League guy, but the dude looked dope. But he's not good.
Like a creative player in Madden?
Yeah, basically he's what my creative player looks like in every single game I play like. The full sleeve tattoo,
Chris
a beard.
Streveler.
There you go, Streveler. And the blonde hair with the beard and the full sleeve. That is basically what I look like in all of my video games, my career. So it was fun to watch that. But Cardinals fumbled the bag. Larry Fitzgerald may retire and not make the playoffs. Sad boy hours, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's a rough thing. But the Browns, first time in 18 years, they made the playoffs.
How about that?
And they get to play the Steelers, turn right back around and play the Steelers again. This time with most of their starters. But I said it, I was live tweeting that game before we broadcasted the Nuggets game on Sunday. I think I was rooting for the Browns mainly because it's a sad franchise that finally turned something around. And it gives me a little bit of hope as a Bengals fan that they made the playoffs. They broke their streak. At some point, this 31-year streak of not winning in the playoffs is going to come to an end. Congratulations to them. And the Titans. The Titans are division champs. They get an extra home playoff game, I think, with the 4 seed. I'm not quite sure how that works out, but they took care of business.
Playoff game and they get a revenge game, or the Ravens get a revenge game, and now they go to
Tennessee.
Tennessee, yeah.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're chilling.
all right.
We're chilling. Yeah, the camera, the GoPro, my connection lost on my phone, but the camera's still rolling, so we're good.
There we go. Other interesting matchups. The Colts end up getting the 7 seed. They get the Bills in the first round of the playoffs.
That's a nightmare matchup. That's a nightmare matchup for them.
Wouldn't want to be going into Buffalo right now. And then on the NFC side, the Saints took care of business. They got the 2 seed. It might not matter in the long run because they're going to have to go outside for their championship game, and they suck in the weather. Yeah. The Rams still are in it. I'm not sure how I feel about them without Jared Goff. Wolford won 1 game, but it's the one game that nobody had tape on.
Is Jared Goff confirmed out the rest of the season?
I don't know if he's confirmed out, but with the way that they were talking about his thumb, it was a similar injury to what Breeze had last year that sidelined him for 6 weeks. So, I mean, he could come back at some point if they make it that far. The game on the NFC side, I think that people are going to be paying attention to most is the Buccaneers and football team game, just because the football team is the higher seed. They'll host this game. They're 7-9. We have 10-6 teams that did not make the playoffs, and we have the Washington football team. And I know Washington fans aren't going to apologize because they won enough games to win their division. You're the NFC least champions. Congratulations. But I think the Cinderella season's coming to an end on Sunday.
Well, first of all, let's talk about how we got to that point, because there was some head-assery on Sunday Night Football.
Oh, yeah.
The Washington football we should be talking about the Giants hosting Tom Brady at this point. We should not be talking about the Washington football team. But considering Doug Peterson just hates the Giants more than he hates the football team, Washington football team Cinderella story continues. I don't hate it because Ron Rivera and Alex Smith, fantastic story.
Comeback team of the year.
Comeback team of the year. They deserve every single heartfelt award.
No mascot. Quarterback on one leg. Your other quarterback had diarrhea, got benched, and then got
the other
cut
one went
for
to the strip club,
No,
yeah.
it's the same quarterback. He had diarrhea, got benched, and then went to the strip club and got cut. And then they had another quarterback absolutely destroy his leg.
Kyle Allen
Kyle
destroyed his
Allen
leg
destroyed his
too,
leg
yeah.
this year too. So they've had a lot to deal with, but hey, they're still here.
Look, if they honestly didn't have as much terrible things go their way, they could have been like an 500 team.
Mm-hmm.
They could have been 8-8 team. I mean, they're one game away, from being 500. So it's
Yeah.
not like it wasn't that terrible. Yeah, they're 7-9, but their defense is pretty good. It's not like they're that bad.
Their defense could be something. We'll go ahead and go through the pick'em first, and then we'll pick we'll just go champions of each conference in our Super Bowl matchup, because I'm not. Your teams are still. I think my team might still be in here to represent the AFC, and your team is still in here when we started the show. But we'll go through the games first. So starting off, Colts Bills, the first wild card matchup. I think this one's pretty easy. The Colts last week were interesting. They got out to a quick lead and then just kind of held on. Basically the same thing that the Browns did, but I think the Colts were in a lot better situation and they didn't need to do that. And the Bills offense, Josh Allen's playing at an MVP level. He's not going to win it because Aaron Rodgers went off this season. He has more passing touchdowns than JK has punts. So we shouted out Charlie, shout out his older brother JK who punts for the Packers. But the Bills, you have this one easily in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. This is going to be a throttling. This is the Colts barely squeezed into the playoffs. They got lucky that they got to play Jacksonville the last game of the year. And Jacksonville is full tanking, so they just got lucky that they ran into a bad team. But Philip Rivers has to go play in the cold in the playoffs. Not happening. Bills win here big, no doubt about it. Colts fans, I hope you enjoy this game because this is the last game you should see Philip Rivers play football ever again.
It could be a
Because
good
you
thing.
need to move on. Hopefully, maybe you bring in a quarterback in the offseason. Maybe it's
Carson
Matt
Wentz?
Stafford. Maybe it's Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz.
Maybe it's Matt Ryan if they move on.
Yeah.
There's quarterbacks out there. You just got to move on from Philip Rivers because you could be a top 3 seed in the AFC if you had a quarterback that was anywhere near prime or good at all.
We'll talk about one of his weapons on the offensive side that he's been playing with coming up in the end of the show segments, but they should be a lot better than what they have been. They couldn't put this game because they're doing a Nickelodeon broadcast again. Did you watch the earlier one?
Oh,
didn't get it.
hell no. I did not watch
But
the Nickelodeon
They're
broadcast.
doing the Nickelodeon broadcast. Thankfully, they didn't do this game because it would have been a little bit too ugly for the kids to understand.
I don't know. The one they picked is going to be ugly in my opinion too.
I think so too, but it's the Bears. At least.
I think Bears fans honestly are more pissed about it being on Nickelodeon than the actual.
Are you
team is.
fucking kidding? I gotta watch the Bears on the same channel that SpongeBob is on.
Like
Seriously?
they're just like, why the fuck am I watching SpongeBob run across the screen? And terrible. I think Bears fans are more pissed. The Saints could care less because it's the Saints.
The Saints are gonna win that game. That's a layup.
So, if you want to go that one next, we'll
we go that
flip
one,
flop.
sure.
We'll flip flop. I'll pick it Saints here big. It's on Nickelodeon. Like I said, I'm probably not going to watch it just because it's the Bears.
They have the other. They're just simulcasting it on
Oh.
Nickelodeon. So they have the one Nickelodeon broadcast and then the regular
Okay,
broadcast.
yeah, I will definitely be watching the other one. I may throw on the Nickelodeon one every once in a while for comedy reasons
could
and
be.
just laugh about how weird this is. But, I'm going Saints here big. The Bears, Zach Kyleman, who's a Bears fan on the NFL Unhinged show, he really wanted his team not to make the playoffs because he wanted to be in a spot where they could draft a quarterback. But Trubisky is the answer, maybe? I don't know. Maybe he's the answer.
We
He's
got a
played
lot
good.
of people in Chicago hating us right
He's played pretty good, but it's first round exit. Unless we see a double doink situation, but I'm sorry I had to bring that back.
now. Reverse karma for the double doink, maybe. And the Saints have found interesting ways to lose in the playoffs in the past. So I didn't think that they'd get any competition from Minnesota last year, and Minnesota beat them in the wild card round at home. So who really knows? But I don't see that happening this year. We'll go back to the next game, the Rams and Seahawks. This one's a little bit interesting. They split their season matchup, but if I was going to put stock into a team, I would definitely be putting stock into Seattle more than I would for Los Angeles, especially with Goff not knowing his status. And they really don't have, their offense has been, for an offensive guru as Sean McVay, their offense really hasn't been what's carrying them. It's Aaron Donald in the defense. But I think that the Seahawks, Chris Carson's going to get going in the playoffs. And DK and Tyler Lockett, if they come to play, Russ is still Russ. He's not going to win MVP like we thought in the beginning of the season, but he's still a good enough quarterback to win you playoff games.
He will flip the switch when it comes time down to the game. Russell Wilson will show why he is a top quarterback in this game.
Probably the most self-confident guy I've ever heard speak.
Exactly, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's confident in himself, and they're playing a team that lost to the Jets 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. You really think the Rams? No shot. No, zero shot. This Rams team. It doesn't matter if Goff is at quarterback, or I already forgot his name.
Wolford.
Yeah. Wolford. There you go. Wolford is the quarterback. Seattle's going to win here big. We'll talk about them a little bit more when we talk about our conference winners because I picked them beginning of the year and they're proving me right pretty well. But the Seahawks are going to win here big, especially in Seattle in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams don't have the facilities, so that's big money. They are not going to go down to Seattle and beat them. Or up to Seattle, and beat them.
Yeah, that's a tough situation for them. I would have much rather seen the Cardinals in as the next NFC West team.
I think that
instead of the
game would have
Rams.
been a lot closer. I think that would have been a lot more fun watching D-Hop go against DK Metcalf
Mm-hmm.
and watching that Russell Wilson versus Kyler Murray matchup. And now we get a good defense. Rams have a good defense, but their offense is just who knows what they're going to show.
Next game, last game of the NFC side. I think they put all NFC games on Saturday and AFC on Sunday. But Buccaneers and the Washington football team. We talked about it a little bit already, but I do think that the Buccaneers, for as bad as they were kind of down the stretch, they are too talented for the football team. Now, maybe the defense steps up, but I don't see their offense scoring much because their offense tried to give that game back to Philadelphia with Doug Peterson actively throwing the game. And you might as well threw Paul Crewe out there at quarterback because that's what he was doing. He was shaving points, and it was bad. But the football team's offense, I love Alex Smith, and he's going to be comeback player of the year. And I wouldn't be. It should be the Alex Smith comeback player of the year moving forward. But I think the clock is about to strike midnight. I think the carriage is about to turn back into a pumpkin, and I don't know if Alex Smith is going to be looking too good in a tattered dress. So that's where I'm going. I'm going Buccaneers in that.
Not so fast, Jimmy. Here is the first different one up we are picking. I'm picking the Washington football team. You want to know why? Because let me remind you, the last time a 7-9 team made the playoffs, Marshawn Lynch shook the stadium in Seattle. People forget about that. Saints were one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
And who was it? Matt Hasselbeck and Marshawn Lynch shocked the world. And they did that, and I'm picking them again. It's this Bucs team, I don't know what I'm getting every week. I have no idea. They have too many weapons of offense. Tom Brady, you need to have consistent players, and you need to have players that are secondary. And they have all number ones who demand the ball. Rob Gronkowski demands the ball. Antonio Brown demands the ball. Mike Evans demands the ball.
Mike
Chris
Evans
Godwin.
is also hurt, possibly.
Exactly. And people are forgetting you have a really good running back in Ronald Jones that you don't use to your advantage because Antonio Brown, quote unquote, needs the ball. I mean, the Washington football team, you get what you get. They have nothing to lose. They expect to get their ass kicked. And just like Ohio State happened, they don't care if they're hearing everybody chirp at them. They didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. They should have lost to Philadelphia. They don't deserve it. Chase Young is going to have himself a day. I'm calling it right now. He's going to get to Tom Brady. Tom Brady is not going to look like himself. And the Bucs are going to fire Bruce Arians in the offseason. And look at Bill Belichick returning to team up with Tom Brady. Look out for that. But I'm picking Washington football team with the upset because of the history behind it. I am going to regret that decision 100%, but I'm picking the Washington football team. They're not going to go far, but I would love to see them win the first round playoffs.
I mean, it's definitely a possibility.
Plus, Antonio Gibson coming back, Terry McLaurin playing well.
Yeah.
They have weapons.
It reminds me a lot of the Broncos when they beat the Steelers with Tebow. It could be an ugly enough game that at some point the Redskins make one stupid play and end up in the end zone. I'm a little bit more nervous about that pick. I'm sticking with the Bucs though. I think
it worries me with Tom Brady on the other side. But look what happened last year. Everyone said the Titans had no shot against the Patriots, and they ran the ball down their throat for all day. I mean, Antonio Gibson can run the ball.
Does Ron Rivera know how to time travel like Mike Vrabel?
Well, I mean, he knows how to beat cancer, so maybe.
He does.
Yeah.
He
So
does.
I mean, if he can beat cancer,
If
if he can beat cancer, he can beat Tom Brady in the playoffs. That's the way I see it.
there you go. That would be it. I think that's going to be one of the more interesting matchups early on this weekend for Wild Card Weekend. Next game, Ravens and Titans, the AFC South champions. And you mentioned it. It's a revenge game for Baltimore, especially not just going back to last year's divisional round, going back to earlier this season, and these coaches don't like each other, and the players are really not, they have embraced this rivalry. Earl Thomas is no longer there, so we're not going to see Earl Thomas lead blocking for Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Henry did
I
finish.
think Ravens fans are okay with that.
I think they're probably okay with that too. He's somewhere with his brother, getting chased down, flagged down with a gun by his wife. It was a crazy story. If you listen to Center of Attention before we started falling into the bench, I talked about it in depth. You might be able to go back. You'll be able to go back and find that episode. I wouldn't recommend listening to it. It was a bad story. But with all that being said, I think I'm going to go Ravens to upset the Titans. Because the Titans, yes, I love them, and I love Comp, and I love that he's getting a chance to play in the playoffs again, because it's only the second time in his career. But there's a lot of things going against the Titans this year. There's a lot of bad injuries. Taylor Lewan not being there is going to be difficult, because now you got Quessenberry starting at left tackle, who hasn't played in the playoffs. So I'm picking the Ravens because I think they're hot at the right time, and they're pretty talented. They're a better team than we thought they were a few weeks ago in the season.
I really want to pick Titans, man. I really do, but I can't pick against this Baltimore team. Like we said, Lamar Jackson looks like the player we saw last year. We didn't see that the first half of the year. Now he has turned the switch, and that defense is finally on all cylinders. Patrick Queen done an incredible job. Marlon Humphrey in secondary, man. Derek Wolf, shout out Derek Wolf, been a great guy at D tackle for them too. Hopefully he can get himself some more playoff wins, but I'm going to go Ravens here too. Like I said, the Titans are going to rely too heavily on Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill has played well. He deserves to be the number one QB for the Titans in the future, but can they sustain that? Can he have a tournament game? I think he can, but
He can announce himself here and
if
and
he
be something.
if he dominates this game, then we're talking about a completely different story with Ryan Tannehill and looking at him in a completely different way. But I think the Ravens, like we said, it's a revenge game. They have it's similar to Ohio State game. They see that the Titans have the hype around them and see Derrick Henry on the other side, and
the Titans are playing into their role in all of this. They kind of think of this as tongue in cheek. I think the Ravens take this very personally, like Ohio State did with Clemson.
Yeah, so I gotta go Baltimore as well. I think Baltimore we could see a Cinderella run from them. They could be a team that shock a lot of people in the playoffs, but I'm gonna go Ravens here. I don't like it because I want the Titans to go far. I love watching Derrick Henry run the ball, man. So much fun to watch him run the ball. So much fun. But I'm going Ravens here to win because of the story behind it and that edge that Baltimore has going into the final or going into the postseason.
Yeah, and the Ravens, the only two times that they've won the Super Bowl, they were the wild card team. So they've done it before. They know how to do it. And John Harbaugh, if I'm going to pick a good coach out of the Harbaugh family, it's definitely John over Jim.
That's not saying a whole lot,
Well,
if we're being honest.
hey, Jim's trying to get back into the NFL, so we might be able to talk about both Harbaugh brothers in the league again. We talked about Bears and Saints, so last game, the Browns and Steelers.
Two teams you hate.
Well,
I mean, you hate the Steelers with a burning passion. The
I
Browns,
don't
Browns
hate-
are like, we both suck. We
the
both
Browns
suck so
are the Spider-Man meme where I'm staring at them and they're staring at me and we don't know who's who because it's pretty similar, barring this year. This is the first time that I've not been able to look at a Browns fan and go, we're the same. No, it's an interesting game, but I don't know. I'm gonna let you go first because I'm teetering, so I'll let you go first.
I'm gonna go with the little brother. I'm gonna go with this. I'm going with the David to the Goliath. I'm gonna pick the Browns. I don't like it at all, though. I don't like it at all. But Pittsburgh resting all their players to know that they probably are gonna face Cleveland again a week later pisses me off because they knew.
The Steelers have a way about themselves.
They thought, they were like, you know what? If we lose this game, we probably play the Browns again. So why the hell are we going to play our starters against this team? That thought that didn't cross my mind until I saw the playoff bracket come out. Because then I'm like, wow, the Steelers really did think about that. Because they did not want to. They probably cut their playbook in half easily. Knew that the Browns were a first round matchup. They probably come into this game like, yeah, we're the hotheads. We're a better team. Ben Roethlisberger in the playoffs. No one can stop him. I beg to differ. Myles Garrett is going to get to him like no other. I have a lot of faith in this team. Browns, God, I can't believe I'm saying that. Faith in this team, the Browns. That's weird saying that still. But
They're not the factory of sadness anymore.
the Steelers have nothing going for them. They got lucky that they played some bad teams at the end of the year. I know, I'm sorry, Jimmy, but they played some bad teams at the end of the year, and they're not.
Lost to those bad
The
teams.
Browns they've been playing meaningful football for a long time, and they're going to come in ready to roll, ready to pop the big brother in the mouth.
I agree. I'm going Browns. I thought we were going to differ on this one because it's pretty easy to pick the Steelers. But Baker Mayfield he did enough, and he's playing smart enough now where he's not putting his defense into bad situations. And yeah, the Steelers sat most of their starters, but the Browns had a lot of guys still out with COVID. Their offensive coordinator was out with COVID, and Denzel Ward wasn't able to play. And now they're playing on Sunday, so Denzel Ward will be back. Everybody's going to be available for them again finally. Knock on wood, hopefully nothing comes out earlier than what we're talking about now. But I do think I like the Browns. I'm picking the Browns because the Steelers, I've been saying they're a first-round exit ever since they lost or struggled against the Ravens on the Tuesday night game, and I'm going to stick with that. I think the Browns knock out the Steelers in the first round of the playoffs in 2020, or 2021 gets off to a way better surprise than 2020 did.
The 2020s, I'm going to call it right now, are going to be much better than the 2010s for the Browns. So I don't hate this at all because, I know how much you hate the Steelers.
Yes.
And considering what Washington football team were able to do with them, what your team was to be able to do with them.
My team was pretty, it wasn't an
Brandon
impressive
Allen
win, but
tore that Steelers team that was fighting for the number one seed.
Mhm.
And this is not the same team that was undefeated, not at all. They're banged up. They get TJ Watt back, but Minka Fitzpatrick has not looked as good. They're not there. Maybe it's time for the offseason for them to go get JJ Watt. Maybe we see that.
we could see all three Watt brothers. I think that would be all three Watt brothers, and then the Edmonds brothers are all on the same team.
Wow, that'd be a fun
It's family affair.
That'd be
Everybody's playing for the same team.
Exactly. So I'm gonna go Browns here big. I picked a lot of underdogs. I'm gonna be honest in these games. I picked the Browns to upset. I picked the Ravens to upset. I picked the Washington football team to upset. You only had one upset, so it's gonna be.
I picked the Ravens.
Oh yes, you're right. You're right.
The only game that we differ on is the Buccaneers.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
that's the only one. Don't
You're right. I'm stupid.
don't
You're
throw
right.
me under the bus that quickly. I'm trying. I'm doing better.
Well, we'll have our full brackets out there because I know it's a little bit weird because the number one seed plays the lowest seed, and we'll figure out how all that works out.
Mhm.
But Jimmy and I will have the full bracket out on our Instagram and Twitter, like we did for the NBA bubble and the NHL bubble. So look out for that for the full bracket. But let's talk about because we didn't talk about the Bears, we didn't talk about the Packers or the Chiefs at all.
Right.
Do you think both these teams, the buys help them get to the championship or get to the Super Bowl?
The Chiefs, especially since they were able to rest guys last week, it's basically 2 bye weeks in a row. Andy Reid does very well off of bye week, and we saw how that played out for him last year in the playoffs. He finally got the monkey off of his back, so to speak. I do think the Chiefs did lose earlier on in the season, so it's not like they haven't faced any adversity. They were able to come back. Hopefully Clyde gets healthier in this time that they have off, but I do think that both these teams benefit from the bye week, and then they both benefit from pretty good home field advantage, whether there's a crowd there or not. Lambeau is going to be terrible to go to come playoff time, and Kansas City, it's cold. It might not be bad weather like I think it's going to be in Green Bay, but it's going to be not very fun to be out there. And if these games are played later in the day where it's really cold, you get a team, Indianapolis and I think Tennessee would probably be the two teams that struggle most with the bad weather on the AFC side, but I think everybody struggles if they go up to Lambeau in this time of year.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think the Chiefs have a easier route, if I'm being honest, because I don't see anyone on that side on the AFC that can possibly tempt them. Maybe Buffalo.
Only Buffalo.
Maybe
That's
Buffalo.
the only one that I could.
I would love to see a Buffalo Chiefs AFC title game. That'd be a lot of fun. But the way I see it, NFC, the Packers have a lot more what ifs because what if the Seahawks get going?
Yeah.
What if the Saints show that they're a number one seed at one point?
Mm-hmm.
What if Tampa Bay gets going? That's a bunch of what ifs. I think the Packers have a lot more scenarios where they could lose.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's more teams that they may not be as comfortable against because their defense is not as good and the running game has slowly gotten there. But Aaron Jones has been injured and hopefully he gets better and he's fully healthy. But this NFC is wide open in my opinion. Obviously it goes through Lambeau, and that helps Packers a lot, especially if it's freezing cold.
Maybe it goes through Lambeau because it was supposed to go through Baltimore last year in the AFC and they lost.
Sure. So either way, I still like the Seahawks NFC though. I know that I picked them in the preseason. I'm kind of homering that because I want to be right about my Super Bowl matchup being Seahawks versus Chiefs because I had that picked and I'm going to stick with that because Seahawks, like I said, when they have the talent now. They didn't have that in years past, but when a Russell Wilson team is flip the switch and they're primed and ready to roll, it's very hard to stop them. And that defense is slowly getting there. Jamal Adams is slowly he's in the playoffs. Who knows what Jamal Adams in the playoffs is going to look like?
Yeah,
so,
Jamal Adams might be a problem in the playoffs. I didn't think about that.
So I like the Seahawks still out of the NFC, but I'm going to be honest, I'm going to root for the Packers because I want to see Aaron Rodgers get to the Super Bowl. But I think the Seahawks are going to take it.
My team for the NFC, I'm gonna go with the Saints. I'm not as confident in it now with Quan Alexander being hurt, but I would, for the same similar reason, I kind of want to see Drew Brees get another ring. He's got all the records anyways for career now, so he's gonna be in the Hall of Fame anyways. But getting that second Super Bowl, we saw what it did with Peyton, because I think if Peyton doesn't come to Denver and win the second one, it's a little bit, his legacy isn't as great as what we remember it now. I think Drew Brees gets that. I think Cam Jordan is good enough to be able to lead that defense, and Malcolm Jenkins has been there before. Malcolm Jenkins was the underdog when he won it, and I think the Saints are going to be looked at as underdogs getting later on in the playoffs. So on the NFC side, I'm going to go with New Orleans.
This is a full circle because I remember not too long ago you were saying Drew Brees sucks. Replace him. He's
not gonna be the reason they win, and he's gonna play like shit all throughout the playoffs.
But you want him to get another Super Bowl. I wouldn't hate that though. I would not. Hate
just
that.
like Peyton in 2015.
I mean, okay. Then let's have a conversation. Do you think the Seahawks, Packers, or Saints have a shot against Kansas City? Because I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, the Saints played them very close. But that's the thing about the Chiefs, is that they're good enough that they can kind of coast to close games, and it's still, you never really believe that they're going to get beat. Of those teams, I definitely don't think Green Bay is going to be able to stand up to them. The only team, I don't even think that Seattle would be able to stand up to them. I think that's just too much of a talent gap, because Seattle's defense has played better, but they're not good enough to stop Kansas City's offense, and Kansas City's defense is good enough that they could probably shut down Russell Wilson or only let one of those other receivers get going. So I'm going to say that the Saints were the only team in the NFC I could see competing with Kansas City. But if Kansas City's focused, Kansas City wins the Super Bowl. They're going back to back.
I think I'll differ with you here. I think the Packers have the best shot. Their defense is not as good, but if there's an offense I trust to put up points against the Chiefs, because if it's a 50-49 game, whatever, I think there's only one team on the NFC that can do that, and that's the Packers, in my opinion. I think the Packers their defense won't be as good, but an offense I trust more to put up those points is Aaron Rodgers. If we're looking at teams that match up defensively better, it's definitely not the Packers. I think the only closest team would be the Saints, but they don't have Quan Alexander to cover up Travis Kelce over the middle. So that's the storyline we got to look forward to the future. But the Chiefs, I mean, like we said, the Chiefs have to go through Buffalo. Buffalo could be a good test. Buffalo could be a good test. The Ravens could be red hot. We could be see a surprise in the AFC, but I can't bet against the Chiefs.
No, and I think it's just at this point they're so far ahead of everybody, and they're so everybody but the Packers have already played them that I think could stand up to them. So maybe that gives the Packers a little bit of an edge that way. But Patrick Mahomes, just in that offense works so well together. It's one of the most complimentary games. It's one of the most complimentary games I can remember seeing, just offense, defense wise, and Andy Reid is a perfect coordinator for that. I'm interested to see what it's going to be like without Eric Bieniemy, because I doubt he stays around. But
he probably will get an NFL job, but I would guess that they keep him through the playoffs.
Yeah, no, they'll keep him through the playoffs, but I don't
think
he's going to be
maybe
next year.
A year from now, maybe they won't be as good offensively. But Bieniemy, I mean, maybe he goes to New York and gets Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. That could be interesting. But Bieniemy should get a job in the NFL, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's going to be a head coach at some point. There's our pick him for the first wild card weekend, and we talked a little bit about some of the big storylines moving towards the rest of the season. Let's go ahead and we'll get into our ending of the show segments and then plug our stuff and get you guys out of here on this episode 22 of the Far End of the Bench.
We can drink now, episode 22, ladies and gentlemen.
It is
we totally spaced on saying that because episode 21 was
3 weeks
ago. 3 weeks earlier recorded, so we didn't really think about that. But we can drink now, but maybe we'll start drinking on the pod if we start getting our ass kicked in these pick'ems and stuff.
I mean, we'll say it now. We might have to take the Wonderlic test.
I don't have to take the Wonderlic. You do, because I picked the regular season correctly.
I didn't. I don't have to take the Wonderlic because I lost the pick'em. I was a gracious host, and I felt like if we introduced the stipulation as late as we did, everybody would be like, no, I don't, because I'm already lost. So I said, okay, I'll bite the bullet. I'll take this. It would have been funny because we're gonna do. I think we decided the Wonderlic test.
Yeah,
right?
I think we decided on the Wonderlic test because
We were gonna sign up to take the ACT again.
I am not doing that again. I'm not paying for that. I guarantee
Well, I'm not
you
going
that.
to pay for any of the prep this time. I might just go right on to the test. It would be ridiculous, but it's a stipulation. But we'll keep you updated on that as well.
Yeah, I'm just thankful that I had a great last week because I don't think I'm even bottom two. I think Jim fell off and had himself a bad week, and
Yeah.
he's the second worst. But Kelsey from Hilo Sports, it's not Kelsey's island because he does not know how to pick island picks. He picks island picks against, but it's dumb. It's head assery, and that's why he has the worst record.
Yeah, well, moving forward, we'll talk about that. Wrapping up this one episode, beats of the week. Not a lot. When we started this, beats of the week were like I have to pick 3, but there's 10. Now it's I have to find 3.
Yeah.
But I'll start, and it's UFC. We talked about UFC. I'm so glad that it's coming back, and we have a big card coming up at the end of the month.
The first card of the year won't be this weekend, but it'll be the
Next
following
weekend.
weekend with Qatar against Max Holloway. It's
Yeah.
going to be a fantastic fight. So that's that. I'll probably have a pick him for that next week, but that's a great fight going forward.
Poirier McGregor's at the end of this month. It's a
Ooh.
rematch at 155. It was at featherweight last time, and it was also. I mean, Poirier was good, but he wasn't as seasoned and didn't have the experience that he's been able to gain since the first time that he and McGregor fought. I would say McGregor's had a lot of experience too. Is early on in his run. I think it was his second big victory in the UFC when they fought the first time.
Yeah, that's the victory that kind of exceeded him into
because
the
he
better
called the round
components,
again. Yeah.
better opponents or better opponents, not components. Wow, I can't talk. Yeah, that was a fight that was like his biggest fight,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that he started getting better fights, and he went on that huge win streak.
Yeah, so that fight's going to come up at the end of this month. I'm not going to pick a winner because I kind of want to take some more time to dive into this, but I was looking on FanDuel today. It is plus 340 to go to distance, which
I don't know.
it could, I think that Poirier has gotten good enough to where if he fights a perfect fight and maybe Connor's not all the way there, maybe it goes to a decision. These two guys are known to finish people, but plus 340 is a pretty good return, and then you don't have to pick a winner. You can just enjoy the fight the whole time, unless somebody gets knocked out. But
Yeah, I mean, I would like a knockout. It's going to be a fantastic fight. I tweeted out, man, that promo video today, hype me up, bro. Can it be January 28th, 27th?
I think it might be 26.
26, one of those days, man. Oh my god, I can't wait for that. Maybe we can convince the guys at Colorcast to give us that game too, or that fight. At
I would
least.
love
That'd
to
be
do
fun.
that. I've
That'd
always
be a lot
wanted
of
to be
fun.
Joe Rogan. That's fine.
That'd be a lot
I'd
of
totally
fun.
do that.
That'd be a lot of fun. I'll go my next beat of the week. I mean, like you said, these are a bunch of we kind of had to nitpick and
Yeah.
dive into whatever we wanted with these. So
I almost looked at the soccer lines. Not gonna lie.
wow, and ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Jimmy looking at soccer lines.
January 23rd, by the way.
Okay, January 23rd. But my first one, I'm keeping with football. I'm picking the Washington football team to beat the Bucks. I told you that was my pick 'em, but they're plus 230. That's honestly pretty respectful to the Washington football team because usually a team has Tom Brady and against a team that's not as good on paper, the odds should be shifted more that way, maybe plus 350 range. But plus 230 is pretty reasonable in my opinion. And I like Washington football team to get to Tom Brady because they're more. Neither team has been consistent. So
Right.
I'm going Washington plus 230.
My next one, it's the national championship, and it's going to be a surprise to most people. I'm saying this one so that it doesn't happen. Ohio State to win the national championship, plus 210. I think plus 210 is a little bit, after what we saw them do, it's giving Alabama a little bit too much credit. I don't like that going forward, and as we're talking, I'm going to pull up the spread here. But I think it's going to be a good matchup against two of the top teams in the country. I think these are the two best teams, and we'll see how it finishes out. But plus 210 for Ohio State to win, and it's Alabama minus 7.5. So maybe look at the spread.
The spread, yeah, the spread.
Because I think
will be
Ohio
more
State can
interesting.
cover.
Oh, 100%. I think you've had a few beats of the week that you've done, like, you've had it where, like, I hope this doesn't happen, so I picked it.
Yeah.
I think you messed yourself up a little there. I know
a
you
couple.
picked the Stars to win the Cup, and that luckily fired in the right direction for us. Luckily that one.
Vancouver almost gave me a heart attack, but
So luckily that helped us out. I think there's another one I'm totally spacing on, but that you picked that hopefully it doesn't happen. That's why you put it in beats of the week. So I don't know what the other one was, but my last two beats of the week are trophy picks, actually. So I'm going to go, like you said, hockey starts next week. Hart Memorial Trophy winner, Nathan fucking McKinnon.
Yeah.
Plus 500. Write it down. Put the bank account on it. The dude should have won it the last 2 years, 3 years. But now, finally, he's going to get it again this year. If you write it down, he's going to win it. Plus 500.
I know you like to be the hot take guy, but that's not a hot take anymore. Everybody
Sure.
knows that Nathan McKinnon is the best player in hockey.
Should have won an MVP by now. Which for all those non-hockey fans, a Hart Trophy is the MVP of hockey.
Also the Ted Lindsay.
Ted Lindsay, yeah. So he, in my opinion, he's going to win that. So I'm going to go with Nathan McKinnon, plus 500.
My last one is another football game. Colts are plus 260 to beat the Bills. The Colts are frisky. They could, and maybe the Bills get blinded by the lights, but I think that team has had enough playoff experience as the road team in the wild card weekend. Hosting, I don't see it happening, but plus 260 is a decent win back.
Okay. I don't hate that at all. My last beat of the week, a player that has surprised me a lot thus far. Most improved player in the NBA, Christian Wood. Christian Wood down there in Houston. I believe James Harden is going to get his ass traded soon. I don't know where it's going to be, but Christian Wood is going to be the number one option down there in Houston, and he has played fantastically. He has been almost the number one option down there. That Houston team is finally fun to watch because John Wall is back. Boogie was playing tonight. He looked good. I mean, he got ejected because it's Boogie. He got ejected already in his first game back because it's Boogie. But that's plus 275. He's the favorite, but I don't hate that at all. Christian Wood is going to be he's one of the best stories basketball I've seen too because he didn't get drafted 3 or 4 years ago. He had a draft party. There's a famous story that came out last week where his girlfriend dumped him that same night. He had a huge party in Vegas because he went to UNLV. His girl dumped him that night. He had to drive her to the airport. She dumped him. He didn't get drafted. He had to go overseas and play. He then got picked up by a G League team here. Got on the roster for Detroit. Got some play time. Finally got a huge contract in Houston, and now the dude's playing outstanding. So fantastic story. Shout out Christian Wood. He's my most improved player this year in the NBA. I know it's way early saying that, but he is my most improved.
I like that. And if DeMarcus keeps getting kicked out of these games, we might have to nickname him H-Town Boogie.
Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah.
You can do that. That's a dance for those of you way older. I mean, even older than I am. That's an old reference. But now those are the beats of the week. Go put your bets in, win some money. I have my Avalanche bet still in.
I do too. I have it in there as well.
Hoping I'm gonna dust off those sweaters in the next couple weeks. But now, player of the week, I'm gonna start Jonathan Taylor. I said one of Phil Rivers' best weapons: 30 carries, 253 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I was gonna go Derrick Henry, but Jonathan Taylor ran for more yards. And I think he had more touchdowns.
Derrick Henry did have the 2K mark, which is 2,000 yards rushing, which was huge. But
I think he had to rush for like 145 yards to get it too. He had to hit a crazy number.
They had to hand the ball off to him every single time, basically.
And they did.
And they were trying to win the game too.
Yeah.
So I mean that added bonus there. But my player of the week, Jimmy, you're gonna love this one. I think I would give this award to 2 players because there was a combination of 63 points scored on Sunday night by Draymond Green and Steph Curry. And Draymond Green came in with a whopping 1 point. Yeah. And Steph Curry had 62 points. So if you have any other direction, think I'm going player of the week, it's Steph Curry, 62 points. The dude put on a show. Most points in a single game in the last 4 years, maybe 3 or 4 years. Last since Clay put 60 up. Yep. So fantastic performance by Steph Curry. I had to do this slight jab at Draymond Green for having 1 point because I remember that stat, or there's a funny photo going around when Kobe was playing with Kwame Brown, one of the biggest busts in NBA history. It was like Kobe and Kwame Brown combined for 82 points. And Kwame Brown had 1 and Kobe had 81.
Yeah.
So I just love going back to that stat and then Draymond putting up 1 point in his comeback game and Steph Curry putting up 62. I got to give player of the week to Steph Curry because that was an outstanding performance he put on for the league.
That's his team. That's proof. He put his stamp of approval on it, and he's the oldest guy on the team. He's all wrapped up after
crazy
3 quarters.
Being the oldest guy.
I think he's like 31 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's an old man wrapped up in ice on the basketball court. Play of the week. I'm gonna let you start, and I might regret this because mine is good for me, but I'm not sure how it's gonna play for the bench warmers.
I like this one a lot. I think this was a tone setter, but Najee Harris hurdle. 53-yard run. God damn, that set the tone right away.
That
He
was
did it
good,
within the
yeah.
first 2 minutes. I mean, he got interviewed by Megan Rapinoe from the U.S. Women's National Team, and she told him, what can I do for you to hurdle a guy in the game? And he did that in the first 2 minutes. The dude literally leaped him
He
to
was,
life.
and the guy he leapt over was like 6'3" and standing straight up.
It was insane. The dude. I mean, one of my plays of the week early on in the season was Alec Ingold, a fullback, doing that. But considering he did that over a 6'3" guy and ran another 53 yards,
Yeah.
is asinine. Is insane in my opinion. And then Trey Sermon came back the next game and tried to do it, and he just missed barely. He got over most of him, but he got
Right.
tackled directly after.
Yeah.
But Najee Harris, 53-yard run with the hurdle, man, that was a fantastic play.
If he does win the Heisman, that's his Heisman moment. I don't think he's going to get it. Devontae kind of blew everybody else out of the water on Saturday. My play of the week, it's another rushing touchdown because we're fullback and an offensive lineman, so we love rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor had a 40, or not Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb had a 48-yard rushing touchdown against the Steelers, set the tone for most of the game, and it got, in my opinion, I think it got the Browns back into the playoffs for the first time in 18 years, and for that, and because he's my favorite running back in the league right now, Nick Chubb is going to get my nod for play
Nick
of the
Chubb's
week.
your favorite running back?
Mhm.
More than Derrick Henry?
Yes.
Oh, a rival team has your favorite running back in the league.
If Nick Chubb was on the Bengals, I would love him even more.
That's fair.
Only because I have Joe Mixon. He's not. Actually, I'll take that back. Joe Mixon's my favorite.
Okay.
Nick Chubb is my second favorite.
That's
If
fair.
I didn't have Joe Mixon, I'd long for Nick Chubb in the middle of the night. I'm an offensive
Pause
lineman.
on that one, but
Maybe not. Maybe not. If that's what it takes, I just want Jonathan Taylor in Cincinnati. But that's going to be the end of our segments. And we got some housekeeping things to get to you at the end of this episode. Like we've been mentioning throughout, Colorcast, at Tune to You on Twitter and Instagram. We will be broadcasting one of the broadcasts for the National Championship on that app. If you have an iPhone, go ahead, download the app, and then click on Monday night when we're getting ready to go. Like I said, 15 minutes before the game starts, we'll come on with a pregame show, but click on Alabama versus Ohio State in the National Championship and be able to find our commentary. We had a lot of fun doing the Nuggets game last night, and honestly, sometimes the national broadcasters get a little bit boring. And if you want to hear you get a different perspective, it's a cool place, and it's honestly, I miss broadcasting a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Exactly, like Jimmy and I. If you love listening to our podcast, love listening to us on other shows, you'll definitely like hearing us broadcast live games because we interacted with the chat a little bit. Jimmy has a lot of great background with knowing how to follow a basketball game very easy. I'm still helping him with some of the names.
I don't know the names.
We'll
yet.
get there. By the end of the Timberwolves game, you're getting all the names down, so I will give you credit for that. But I had to help you at the beginning a little bit. But I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're definitely doing a national championship game. We will sporadically do Avs games, Nuggets games. We both have lives, so you guys got to give us a little bit of help. We do have lives outside of this, man. We do
yes.
like to
Families, girlfriends, friends, everything.
We have lives, so we won't be able to do every single Nuggets game, Avs game, do a podcast, do 4 shows, all of that. That's just and we have jobs now too, so we cannot do that either. So we're not going to be able to do that constantly, but we will update you guys when we do have it because, I mean, there's a lot of fun doing that. And I'm pretty sure, because, I mean, you have the voice for it because you've done it for so long. My voice can't take this already. I'm losing my voice as we're talking because after we did 3 hours yesterday, and I can't even bear to see what we're going to do for 4 hours of the college football playoff.
We might have a little bit longer of a halftime segment.
Oh
where we
my
just
gosh,
play music
yeah.
so we can rest our voices. Maybe you'll have tea going on. But January 11th, about 5:45 Mountain Time is when we'll go live with that. And since this isn't our lives, since we both have to have day jobs, be sure to check out our partners with the Unhinged Sports Network, Fubo TV. Great way to get cable but not have a contract, and it streams. You never have to worry about blackouts or anything like that. And then also Fanatics, go get apparel. Valentine's Day is coming up. Or if you just want to go get your favorite team's jersey, you need another player's jersey, the draft is coming up.
Go get you the Mile High City MVP edition Jokic jersey. Go get you the jersey you will see next week on Jimmy, the Nordiques jersey. You're gonna love that. Go get you anything basically, man. Go get you a Nuggets sign. Go get you something, man. If you live in the Mile High City, go get you something Nuggets Avalanche. Like that, you need to right now. Because both those teams deserve our support, and they're going to be fantastic going forward.
And you're going to need it for when we have these playoff pushes. We got a lot of stuff coming up in 2021. We said it in the episode you heard last week, but we got more interviews. some streaming content, like I mentioned, on Twitch with video games. I'm going to make those highlight videos for YouTube. And we might even have an office at some point, some merch coming down the line. That's a little bit farther out there, but it's all there's going to be a ton of stuff coming at you of 2021 with the far end of the bench. So with that, this is episode 22. For myself, Jimmy Pilato, my co-host, Nico Bryant. Thank you for listening to the far end of the bench, episode 22. We'll see you guys. Woo! The far end of the bench podcast. We are number one. Nico Bryant, Jimmy Pilato, the Italian Stallion, and the bust, the Macho Man Nico Bryant. 2020 Unhinged Podcast of the Year. Who's gonna take it, huh? Who's gonna take it from the far end of the bench? I don't think you guys know.
Ooh yeah, brother. This is our show. This is our network. We run this.
We run the network.
Kiss
Far
it,
end of the
baby.
bench podcast.
Take it and weep.